I, Melissa, 32F, never thought I'd be in this situation, but here I am. My husband, Trevor, 35M, and I have been married for 7 years, and we have 2 kids, Liam, 6M, and Zoe, 4F. Our life hasn't been easy, but we've always managed to make it work. Trevor and I met in college. I was studying nursing, and he was in engineering. We clicked instantly over our shared love of 90s sitcoms and terrible puns. After graduation, we both struggled to find jobs in our fields. I ended up working as a receptionist at a dental office, while Trevor took a job as a retail manager. We got married young, partly because we were in love and partly because my dad was diagnosed with cancer, and I wanted him to walk me down the aisle. It was a small ceremony in my parents' backyard, with fairy lights strung up in the trees and my mom's famous lasagna as the main course. Dad passed away 6 months later, but I'm forever grateful he was there on our special day. We had Liam pretty quickly after getting married. It wasn't planned, but we were overjoyed. Zoe followed 2 years later, completing our little family. Life was chaotic but good. We were scraping by financially, but we had each other and that felt like enough. Then, about 5 months ago, everything changed. A new manufacturing plant opened up in our town, and they were hiring for all positions. Trevor and I both applied on a whim, not really expecting anything. To our shock, we both got job offers. The pay was incredible, $32 an hour, which was more than double what either of us was making before. The catch? It was a night shift job. We'd be working from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m., 4 days a week. We were thrilled about the opportunity but immediately realized we had a problem: who would watch the kids? We considered daycare, but nowhere was open overnight. My mom offered to help, but she lives an hour away and has her own health issues to deal with. That's when Trevor suggested his Aunt Deborah, 58F. Deborah had recently retired from her job as a high school English teacher. She'd never married or had kids of her own, but she'd always doted on Trevor when he was growing up. She lived about 20 minutes away from us and didn't have much going on. It seemed like the perfect solution. We invited Deborah over for dinner to discuss the possibility. I made my special chicken parmesan, and Trevor broke out a bottle of wine we'd been saving for a special occasion. Deborah seemed excited about the idea, saying it would give her something to do and a way to spend more time with her great niece and nephew. We told her to name her price, wanting to be fair. She thought about it for a moment, then asked for $350 for 3-night weeks and $450 for 4-night weeks. It was steep, especially considering the kids would be asleep most of the time, but we were desperate and agreed. The first few weeks went smoothly. Deborah would arrive around 9 p.m., after we'd put the kids to bed, and leave before they woke up. She'd watch TV, read books, and sometimes bake cookies for the kids to have for breakfast. It seemed like the perfect arrangement. But as time went on, I started noticing issues. Every morning when we got home, the house was a mess. There'd be takeout containers everywhere, even though we'd left plenty of food in the fridge. The sink would be full of dirty dishes, and there'd be crumbs all over the couch. I tried to brush it off at first. After all, Deborah was doing us a huge favor, and it wasn't like the kids were awake to see the mess. But it started to wear on me. I was exhausted from working all night, and the last thing I wanted to do was clean up someone else's mess before I could go to sleep. Then, about a month into the arrangement, I found chocolate wrappers in Zoe's bed. We have a strict no food in bedrooms rule, mainly because Zoe is allergic to chocolate. It's not a severe allergy, but it gives her terrible stomachaches and rashes. When I confronted Deborah, she brushed it off, saying, "The poor dear was hungry, and a little chocolate won't hurt." I was furious but tried to keep my cool. I explained again about Zoe's allergy and asked Deborah to please respect our rules. She nodded and apologized, but I could tell she wasn't taking it seriously. Then there was the issue with our cat, Whiskers. We've had Whiskers since before the kids were born. He's practically our first child. Deborah was supposed to clean his litter box each night, but she never did. We'd come home to find Whiskers had made messes around the house because his litter box was overflowing. When I mentioned it, Deborah said, "Oh, I thought cats were self-cleaning animals." I couldn't tell if she was joking or serious. The problems kept piling up. One morning, I found a stack of worksheets on the dining room table. Deborah had been homeschooling the kids without our permission, teaching Liam long division, he's in 1st grade, and trying to get Zoe to write cursive. When I asked her about it, she said she was supplementing their education. I tried to explain that we were happy with the kids' school and didn't want them doing extra work at night when they should be sleeping, but Deborah just tutted and muttered something about kids these days. The final straw came last week. We have a small vegetable garden that I'm really proud of. It's not much, just a few tomato plants, some peppers and herbs, but it's something I started after my dad died, as a way to feel close to him. He always had an amazing garden. I was planning to harvest the tomatoes that weekend for Liam's birthday party. I was going to make my dad's famous bruschetta recipe. But when I got home on Friday morning, I found that Deborah had picked all the tomatoes and made a huge batch of sauce, which she'd left sitting out on the counter all night. I lost it. I woke up Trevor, who can sleep through anything, and told him we needed to fire his aunt. He was groggy and confused at first, but as I listed off all the issues we'd been having, he started to understand. He agreed but was hesitant because she's family. We decided to talk to her together when she arrived that night. When we confronted Deborah, she burst into tears. She said she'd been struggling financially since retirement and this job was her only income. She admitted she'd been taking food home because she couldn't afford groceries. She said she'd been trying to help with the kids' education because she missed teaching. She apologized for the messes but said she got lonely at night and would snack to stay awake. I felt terrible. I had no idea she was struggling so much. But at the same time, I couldn't help but feel frustrated. Why hadn't she talked to us about this? We could have helped her find resources or even lent her money if she needed it. We offered to help her find another job, something during the day that would better suit her skills and energy levels. We gave her 2 weeks' notice, saying we'd pay her through the end of the month. Trevor suggested we could still have her watch the kids occasionally on weekends for extra cash. Deborah left that night in tears. I felt like a monster, but I also felt relieved. Maybe now we could find someone who would actually follow our rules and keep the house in order. But our relief was short-lived. The next day, Trevor's family started calling. His mom called me a heartless witch for firing her sister-in-law. Trevor's brother sent us a long email about how we've ruined Christmas. It's July, by the way. Even Trevor's grandma, who I've always gotten along with, left a disapproving message on our answering machine. Some of our friends think we overreacted too. They say we should have been more understanding of Deborah's situation. But I don't think they realize how stressful it's been, coming home every morning to a new disaster, worrying about what the kids might be eating or learning without our knowledge. Trevor is torn. He feels guilty about his aunt but also understands my frustration. I'm starting to question if I was too harsh. Should we have given her another chance? Were we the assholes here? I don't know what to do. Our new jobs were supposed to make our lives easier, but now everything feels more complicated than ever. How do we balance our family's needs with our obligations to extended family? How do we find reliable childcare without breaking the bank or hurting people's feelings? I'm at a loss, and I could really use some outside perspective. Update 1, it's been about 3 weeks since my last post, and a lot has happened. First, I want to thank everyone for their supportive comments. Reading them helped me feel less crazy about the whole situation. The day after I posted, Trevor and I sat down for a long talk. We realized we needed to present a united front to his family. Trevor admitted he'd been avoiding conflict, which is why he seemed hesitant about firing Deborah. It's a pattern with him, he hates confrontation. It stems from his childhood, where his parents would have huge blowout arguments and then give each other the silent treatment for days. He promised to be more proactive in dealing with family issues in the future. We decided to reach out to Deborah one last time. We invited her over for dinner, on a weekend we were both off, to clear the air. What happened next was unexpected. Deborah showed up with Trevor's parents, Linda, 62F, and George, 65M. Apparently, she told them we wanted a family meeting. We were caught off guard but decided to go ahead with the conversation. I'd spent all day preparing for this dinner. I made lasagna, a family favorite, garlic bread, and a big salad. I even baked an apple pie for dessert. It was my grandmother's recipe, and I always make it when I'm feeling stressed. The house smelled amazing, but the atmosphere was tense. At first, it was awkward. Linda kept making passive-aggressive comments about family loyalty. She brought up how Deborah had always been there for Trevor, like the time she drove 4 hours to pick him up from a music festival when he was 17 because he'd gotten food poisoning. George mostly stayed quiet, but he'd grunt disapprovingly whenever I spoke. Deborah looked uncomfortable, picking at her food and avoiding eye contact. Trevor tried to keep the conversation light, talking about Liam's recent t-ball game and Zoe's new obsession with dinosaurs. But there was an undercurrent of tension that couldn't be ignored. Then, about halfway through dinner, Zoe came downstairs complaining of a stomachache. Remember how I mentioned she's allergic to chocolate? Well, Linda had brought a chocolate cake, insisting it was Zoe's favorite. We hadn't let Zoe have any, but it turned out Linda had snuck her a piece when we weren't looking. Thankfully, it wasn't a severe reaction, but we did have to use Zoe's EpiPen and call the doctor. The whole time, Linda was apologizing profusely, saying she thought we were exaggerating about the allergy. Deborah, meanwhile, looked guilty and admitted she'd been giving Zoe chocolate too, because she didn't want the poor child to miss out. This incident was a wake-up call for everyone. George, who had been quiet until then, finally spoke up. He scolded both Linda and Deborah for disregarding our parenting decisions and putting Zoe at risk. He then turned to us and apologized for doubting our decision to fire Deborah. The mood in the room shifted. Linda burst into tears, saying she just wanted everyone to get along. Deborah looked ashamed, finally seeming to understand the gravity of her actions. Trevor was visibly shaken, holding Zoe and looking more scared than I'd seen him in years. After things calmed down and we'd put both kids to bed, we all sat down in the living room for a more honest conversation. Deborah admitted that she had been struggling more than she let on, not just financially but also with the responsibility of overnight childcare. She confessed that she often fell asleep on the job, which explained a lot of the messes and neglect. Linda and George opened up too. They'd been helping Deborah financially since her retirement, and they were feeling the strain. They'd hoped this job with us would solve the problem, which is why they'd been so upset when we fired her. We ended up talking late into the night. There were tears, hugs, and eventually, some laughter as we reminisced about happier family times. By the end of the evening, we'd come up with a plan. We helped Deborah apply for some part-time day jobs that better suited her energy levels. There was an opening at the local library for a children's storyteller, which seemed perfect for her. Trevor's parents also agreed to help her out financially for a few months until she gets back on her feet. As for our childcare situation, we've hired a professional overnight nanny. It's more expensive, but the peace of mind is worth it. Plus, our new nanny, Maria, 41F, is amazing with the kids and keeps the house tidy. She's a former preschool teacher who decided to switch to night shifts so she could pursue her passion for painting during the day. The kids adore her, and she's teaching them Spanish, which is an unexpected bonus. Things are still a bit awkward with the extended family, but it's getting better. Trevor's brother apologized for the angry email once he heard the full story. We're taking it day by day, focusing on our kids and our jobs. The whole experience has made Trevor and me realize we need to communicate better, both with each other and with our families. We've started having weekly check-in dates where we discuss any issues and make sure we're on the same page. It's been really good for our relationship. As for Zoe, she's fine. The doctor said her reaction wasn't severe, but we're being extra cautious. We've enrolled her in a food allergy awareness class for kids at the local hospital. She's actually excited about it. She says she wants to teach her classmates about being allergy superheroes. I'll update again if anything significant happens, but for now, I think we're on the right track. It's been a stressful few months, but I'm hopeful that we're moving towards a better place as a family. Update 2. It's been about 2 months since my last update, and I wish I could say things have settled down, but life had other plans for us. First, the good news. Our new nanny, Maria, has been fantastic. The kids adore her, and it's such a relief to come home to a tidy house and happy children. We've even been able to get better sleep during the day, which has made a huge difference in our overall stress levels. Maria's been teaching the kids Spanish, and it's adorable to hear Zoe count to 10 in her little voice. Liam's even started leaving notes for Maria in Spanish, mostly asking for cookies, but it's progress. Now, for the complicated part. Remember how we helped Deborah apply for some part-time day jobs? Well, she landed a position at a local community center, working with seniors. It seemed perfect, until we found out it was the same center where my grandmother, Edith, 79F, attends daily activities. A bit of backstory, Grandma Edith is my dad's mom, and she's been a rock for me since he passed away. She's this tiny, fiery Italian woman who takes no nonsense from anyone. She moved to a senior living community after Grandpa died, but she's still fiercely independent. She goes to the community center every day for yoga, painting classes, and what she calls gossip hour, officially known as community coffee time. At first, we thought this might be a good thing. Deborah could keep an eye on Grandma Edith, and maybe it would help smooth over the family tensions. Grandma Edith was excited about it too. She said it would be nice to have some young blood around the center. Deborah is 58, but to Grandma Edith, anyone under 70 is a spring chicken. For the first couple of weeks, everything seemed fine. Grandma Edith would call me after her yoga class, raving about how nice Deborah was and how she was whipping those old folks into shape. Deborah seemed to be settling into her new role well, and the tension in the family was starting to ease. But then, about 3 weeks ago, Grandma Edith called me in tears. She said Deborah had been spreading rumors about us to the other seniors. Apparently, Deborah had been painting us as neglectful parents who cared more about money than family. She'd even implied that we'd fired her out of spite, leaving her destitute. I was furious. Trevor was even more so. We decided to confront Deborah directly. We met her for coffee at a neutral location, the little cafe where Trevor and I had our first date. It felt weird to be having this conversation in a place that held such happy memories for us. To her credit, Deborah didn't deny it when we confronted her. Her justification? She felt humiliated by being fired and wanted to save face with her new co-workers. She said she didn't think it would get back to us, and she was sorry for the hurt she'd caused. She apologized, but the damage was done. We reported the incident to the community center's management. They were understanding but said they couldn't fire Deborah over personal issues. However, they did agree to assign her to a different department, away from the seniors' activities. She's now working in the administrative office, which seems like a better fit for her skills anyway. This whole situation reopened the rift with Trevor's family. His parents, who had been slowly coming around, are back to giving us the cold shoulder. They insist we're being too harsh on Deborah and that we should let bygones be bygones. Trevor's mom, Linda, even suggested that Grandma Edith must have misunderstood or exaggerated what she heard. That didn't go over well with any of us. The silver lining in all this? It's brought Trevor and me closer together. We've had to lean on each other more than ever, and it's reinforced that we're a team. Our weekly check-in dates have become a lifeline. Last week, we even managed to sneak away for a day trip to the beach while Maria watched the kids. It was just a few hours, but it felt like a proper vacation. We've also become closer to my side of the family. My mom has been incredibly supportive, even offering to watch the kids some weekends so Trevor and I can have some much-needed relaxation time. She's been teaching Liam how to make homemade pasta, carrying on my dad's tradition. It's bittersweet to watch, but it makes me happy to see that connection. As for Grandma Edith, she's become our unexpected champion. She's been setting the record straight with anyone who will listen at the community center. She even jokingly offered to give that Deborah a piece of my mind with my cane. We declined, but the mental image was pretty amusing. Grandma Edith has always been feisty, but seeing her go to bat for us like this has been really touching. We're still navigating this messy situation, but we're doing it together. Trevor and I have started seeing a family counselor to help us develop better strategies for dealing with family conflict. It's early days, but I think it's helping. The kids, thankfully, seem largely unaware of the drama. Liam is excited about starting soccer in the fall, and Zoe has declared that she wants to be a dinosaur doctor when she grows up. Their resilience and joy in the face of all this stress is a constant reminder of what's really important. I'll update again if there are any major developments. For now, we're taking it one day at a time and trying to focus on the positives. Thanks again to everyone who's offered support and advice. It means more than you know. Update 3. It's been about 6 weeks since my last update, and I'm happy to report that things have finally started to settle down. The biggest news is that Deborah has moved. She got a job offer in a city about 3 hours away and decided to take it. It's an administrative position at a private school, which seems perfect for her background in education. I'd like to say I'm sad to see her go, but honestly, it's a relief. The distance has already started to ease some of the family tensions. Before she left, Deborah surprised us by coming over to apologize. It was a bit awkward, but it seemed sincere. She brought a peace offering, a handmade quilt for each of the kids. Apparently, quilting has become her new hobby. The gesture was nice, even if Zoe's quilt did have a suspicious number of chocolate-colored patches. During our conversation, Deborah admitted that she had been dealing with some undiagnosed depression, which contributed to her behavior both while working for us and afterward. She's started seeing a therapist in her new city and seems committed to making positive changes. It doesn't erase what happened, but it does help explain some things. Trevor's parents have slowly started to come around. I think Deborah's move forced them to reevaluate the situation. Linda called last week to invite us over for Sunday dinner, the first time since this whole mess started. It wasn't perfect, but it was a start. George even pulled Trevor aside to apologize for how they handled things. Baby steps, but in the right direction. Our jobs are going well. The night shift is still tough, but we've gotten into a good routine. Maria continues to be a godsend with the kids. Liam started calling her night mom, which is both sweet and a little heartbreaking. We've been trying to adjust our sleep schedules on our days off so we can spend more quality time with the kids when they're awake. The community center drama has died down, thanks in large part to Grandma Edith's efforts. She's become something of a local celebrity there, known for her no-nonsense attitude and fierce defense of her family. She says she hasn't had this much excitement since her bowling league days. Last week, she organized a family history workshop at the center, and she made sure to include plenty of stories about our side of the family. It was her way of subtly correcting any lingering misconceptions from Deborah's gossip. Trevor and I are doing better than ever. All this chaos has really reinforced our partnership. We've started planning a vacation for next summer, our first real family trip since the kids were born. We're thinking of renting a cabin by a lake, somewhere we can unplug and just enjoy being together. It feels good to be looking forward to something positive. There are still occasional hiccups. Last week, Trevor's brother made a snide comment about us driving away Deborah. But instead of getting upset, Trevor calmly explained our side of things. It was a proud moment for me, seeing how much he's grown in standing up to his family. As for the kids, they're thriving. Liam just lost his first tooth and was over the moon about the tooth fairy's visit. Zoe has her first dance recital coming up, and she's been practicing her routine for anyone who'll watch, including a very patient Whiskers. Overall, I feel like we've come out the other side of this stronger as a couple and as a family. It wasn't easy, and there were definitely times when I questioned everything. But standing our ground and prioritizing our kids' well-being was the right choice. Thank you to everyone who's followed this saga and offered support. Your advice and kind words have been a lifeline during some really tough moments. Here's hoping that any future updates will be about more mundane things, like whether it's too soon to let Liam get a skateboard. Trevor says yes, I say no, or if we should finally cave and get Zoe that pet gecko she's been begging for.